Was going over here to check the meat birds, but first, do I spy a snake? I believe I do. I'm gonna go take a look, but I've got dogs with me. I was trying not to really draw their attention to it. Yeah, big black snake. Come here, Tanner. I don't really want you to go find it. I don't know that he's wise to it just yet. So, wow. Not sure how big that one is. Let's zoom in a little. Farm life. Farm life, farm life. Wowzer. Yeah, go on away. Check that out. Alright, so let's go check on meat birds. Okay, so from where I saw the snake, I literally just turned around. And so we're just right here beside the meat bird barn. I think that snake was actually one. Wade, our middle son, has been out in the woods clearing some paths along where they ride four-wheelers and out through the woods. And the guy said that Wade had found a snake. So I bet that was the one he found. He probably just released it in that area right there. But this is the south doorway to our meat bird barn. Small building, 30 foot by 30 foot. And in there currently, we actually have 412 Cornish rock cross meat chickens. We'll go take a closer look. Okay, so it's June 1st, 2025, and these birds are 33 days old. And we have just 10 more days with them on the barn floor. They go to processing to be butchered and processed into poultry on June 11th, 2025. There's Gus. He must be going for a walk in the woods. Hey, Gussie. This flock was hatched on April 30th, 2025. So from April 30th to June 11th, we'll put them right at 6 weeks old when we take them to processor. Tanner, you checking on your chickens? Checking on your chickens? They doing pretty good, aren't they? They're going to make some good chicken meat. So this group is doing well. We do see pretty good uniformity of growth throughout the flock, meaning that most of the birds in the flock are pretty uniform in size with each other. We want to see that in a flock. That means that all the birds are getting to the food, getting to the water. Competition is pretty even amongst them. So we do want to see uniformity of growth in a flock. I don't know what they weigh. We actually don't take weights on our birds during production. We just opt not to handle them for getting weights. We just use our production system and trust the process and take them to processing when the appointment gets here, and the outcome is what it is. That's how we approach it. That doesn't satisfy everybody, but the process works very consistently from flock to flock. So that's where I go back to. We use the production system that we've worked out, and we trust the process. Had a great question just posted today, June 1st, 2025. It was actually posted on a video that is probably several months old. It was a really good question, but I didn't have a very specific answer to it. And I want to kind of try to talk to that question right now. So the question was on a video where we were talking about feeding tips and suggestions on preparing to start a flock of meat birds. And the question was basically, do we have a video that kind of details what protocols do we use? And so the reason I didn't have a great answer is because I kind of needed a little more lead on what specific topic are we talking about in terms of protocols, because we have a production system that involves really a lot of protocols. There's protocols about the floor space. There's protocols about the feeding. There's protocols about the watering. There's protocols about when we encounter atypical birds. There's protocols about potentially using an intervention space. There's protocols about floor quality. There's protocols about ambient temperature. So it did compel me to thinking, okay, so if I had to try to come up with a fairly straightforward, concise answer to, well, what protocols do we use? What things would I include? What we've learned over about 5 years of specializing in Cornish rock cross meat chickens in terms of what protocols would I prioritize. So I would prioritize floor space to the specifics of 2 square foot per bird. I would want to have that amount of floor space for my birds at finish. So I would do that math to figure out how many birds do I want to raise and multiply by 2 for square footage, and that's how much floor space I need for the amount of birds that I want to raise. So I'd start there. I would also prefer to start my birds in the same place that I'm going to finish my birds if I know I have to finish them indoors. And in our system, with our resources and with what we need to work with, in our system, we would choose to raise them indoors because we don't have the landscape, the topography, to start them inside and then move them to a chicken tractor and finish them out there. So we would be finishing them indoors. So we would want to start them in the same place where we're going to finish them. Our preference is just to not have to move them from one building to another during production. So we've shown that in videos where we basically build in a small space, a starter pen where we're going to brood them, and then when they need more floor space, we already have the floor space here, and we just move the crates and expand the floor space that they have access to. I would also prioritize ambient temperature, and I would prioritize that to the specifics of they need approximately 95 degrees Fahrenheit day 1 when we move them in, when they're hatchlings. And then each week, the reference point is they need it approximately 5 degrees cooler than they needed it the week before, but not any cooler than that. So the numbers work out to about 95 degrees day 1, about 90 degrees day 7, about 85 degrees day 14, about 80 degrees day 21, about 75 degrees day 28, about 70 degrees day 35, and then that last week from day 35 to day 42, anywhere from about 65 degrees to 70 degrees. They like those temperature ranges at those times. We would also prioritize feed protocol. And so some of the highlights on feed protocol would be 22% protein complete feed start to finish. We would move the birds in on their hatch day. We would let them settle into the pen for a couple of hours without their feed on the floor, and then we would put feed down on the floor, and then we wouldn't take feed away until feed withdrawal that needs to be initiated 12 to 18 hours before they're being butchered. Okay? We'd plan on quantity of feed being about 10 pounds of feed per bird. We would feed them free choice, let them dictate how much they eat, and we would expect about a third of the feed to be eaten up by halfway through production. They should definitely be able to consume the other 2/3 of the feed in the last half of production. And then as we're going through the last 3 weeks of production to the end, we would pay attention to how much feed we have and how much time we have, and we would kind of ration that feed out over that amount of time. The amount of time that we raise them for is also a protocol that we have in place. We prefer 6 weeks. So we always try to start birds with the end in mind. In other words, we set processing dates before we set hatch dates. And when we set the processing date, we count back 6 weeks from it. And that's the hatching date that we request from the hatchery. So we try to get as close as we can to 42 days. Protocol with water, just make sure they always have it. Never let them run out. Make sure they have enough, and make sure they're consuming what is in their pen about every 24 hours. If you want to use automatic waters, do so. We prefer not to. I know it makes work for us to clean trays by hand and to add water by hand, but we prefer it. So that's what we do. If we had 2 or 3 times the amount of birds, maybe we wouldn't prefer it. But at the scale we're at, and we don't want to expand, then we're okay with manually watering all the birds.